Welcome to the Chan's Logic podcast, where I talk about health, wealth, life, business, and everything in between. Today, I have a pretty important topic that I think is going to help you really understand one of the most fundamental flaws that people see when marketing. So today, we're going to dive into the business world. We're going to dive into the world of marketing, and we're going to start talking about the number one thing I think people do that prevents them from being successful. The number one thing that they do that puts them in a place to where they think that they're going to be looked highly upon. But in reality, it does the exact opposite. So without further ado, what I want to talk about really today is how to build a content machine and how to build content that makes you relatable. You see, the problem I see in the world of marketing and business ownership, especially in the small business world, is people put out content and they forget that they're speaking to human beings. They forget, or maybe they don't understand, that they're speaking to people who are in situations that may not be the best situation possible. And these people want a problem solved, but they believe that it's not solvable, or they've tried it a million different ways and they haven't been able to figure out a solution that actually works. They've probably paid for a bunch of programs. They've probably paid for a bunch of things, but nothing that they do seems to actually put them in a place where they can finally win. And so what we have to think about as business owners and what we have to think about as marketers, because if you own a business, if you're building a project, if you're in the trenches, you are a marketer. You have to be. You have to adapt and adopt the skill of marketing in order to survive in business, or the person who does will win. So here's the biggest thing. A lot of people, when they start out, let's think about the business world. In the business world, people are always talking about, especially when you think about like the business consulting, the business coaching world, people are consistently talking about how much money they make. You see all these ads where they're sitting in front of Lambos, where they're talking about how much they make, where you see them in front of Ferraris, you see them wearing gold chains, gold watches, Rolexes, and everything in between, driving fast cars. And in reality, what that does is it separates you from your market. And what it really does is it makes them feel like they're not going to be able to get to where you're at because you're so far along. So where you're at probably isn't the best for them to jump on board with right now. Let's take the fitness world. Let's say if you're like a health coach and you're posting pictures of you with six-pack abs, pictures of you at the gym, you're posting out videos of you doing meal prep for 17 hours a day. What is that going to do? It's going to get people to say, well, I can't do that. I don't have enough time for that. You do that all day. Of course you can do that. It doesn't make sense for me to be able to do those things. So what we want to think about in these scenarios is think about where you were at a few years ago. Think about where you were at before you decided to start your business, before you decided to start what you're doing. Well, chances are you are probably in the same situation that your clients are in. Chances are you were your client 2 years ago, several years ago, however long ago, but at some point you were in that situation. So now you want to think about, okay, what did I struggle with? What did I go through back in this time period? And then you want to start thinking about, okay, how can I show that I have problems? How can I show that I'm a real human being? How can I be more vulnerable? Because people, they tend to connect with people. People tend to connect with people on an emotional level. People connect with people that are similar to them. People connect with people that are relatable. And so we have to think about the idea that we need to be relatable in order to connect with people to buy our products and services. Even if we're significantly ahead of them at this point in time in our lives, we want to think about where we currently struggle. We want to think about the problems that we go through that can help them relate to us and make them feel like we're relatable. That puts you in a space and a position to where you're down to earth. And that makes them feel like it's okay to follow you. That makes them feel like you can help them. It makes them feel like you get them. So what we want to think about in these situations is we want to think about your story. What aspects of your story can you pull out and tell that helps you become relatable? Hey, so I wasn't always where I'm at today. When I started, I was in this position, and that led me to this, which led me to be over here. I really struggled with this, but ultimately I figured this thing out that helped me go here. And it wasn't just because I was super smart. It was just because I kept trying and I was too dumb to stop. And what did that do? Well, that tells a story about my past. It tells a story about my situations, and then people can see that, read that, understand it, watch that, and ultimately learn that I was just like them, that I went through all these problems, that I went through all these issues, that I went through all these painful experiences in order to get to where I'm at today. That removes the idea that I'm just some jerk who pretends to have millions of dollars, some jerk who pretends to be this perfect six-pack guru, and moves me into this place to where they're like, wow, he might be great now, but he did have a journey. He did have a process. He did start from somewhere. And that somewhere is exactly where I'm at. And that person probably understands how to get me to where I want to be. And I think this is one of the fundamental problems you see in marketing with business owners. They try to be bigger than they are. And I think you have to be relatable, and you have to actually put yourself in a position to where these people can understand you. They can understand why they should follow you. They can understand why it's important that they trust you. And that's it. That's what we want. We want that trust. And in order to build that trust, we can't put ourselves on a pedestal. You can't put yourself in this position to where you pretend like you're perfect, where you pretend like you have everything, to where you pretend like you've got your shit together. Because in reality, well, no one has their shit together. So just be real with people. It doesn't have to be this fake thing to where we pretend like everything is where it needs to be and it's hunky-dory. Be vulnerable. What are you struggling with? Even if you're in the best position possible right now, what are the things you struggled with this week and how did you solve it? Think about the stories that you go through every day. What were the hard things that you actually had to figure out how to get past, and how did you get past it? Those are the things that are going to get people to want to connect with us. And that's what we do. We need to do in order to create more effective marketing in our organic content, in our paid ads, and in our strategy across the board. For example, if you have a paid ad, your ad shouldn't be, I have a Porsche and I drive it every day. I have a massive house. Life is good. And I built this business so that way I could have this life and I could work 1 hour a day and live in Bora Bora and drink Mai Tais. If you want that too, click below. That's garbage. It's sleazy. Instead, you post a picture in front of the car. You post a picture in the driver's seat. I hate this car. Then they're like, what? Why would you hate some like really nice car? Well, this car is the epitome of me working 14 hours a day. This car is the definition of everything I didn't want to be. This car, I hate it. And the day I sold this car was the day I truly learned to live again. That is going to be more relatable because now I'm talking about how I had this thing, but this thing wasn't what I wanted it to be. And this thing led me to this place where I wasn't super happy, and I ultimately had to fix that problem. Now that would be a story to tell. That would be ad copy that would convert because it's something that someone can read, they can get drawn in. It tells a story, it has an emotional buy-in, and it helps them feel like you're vulnerable and you have problems and you have issues and you learned how to solve that. So it makes them feel like you can solve their problems. This is what we want to think about it in terms of being relatable. So you want to, a couple strategies you can use here is to open up a doc, open up your phone, just write out your story, and then pinpoint a few pieces inside of that story to where you have a teachable, relatable lesson to where you can be vulnerable and people can learn to connect with you. Then as you're going throughout your day, and I do this all the time, I have like 800 notes in my phone to where I kind of identify this in, and I write this stuff down. But every day when something happens, and maybe not every day, a couple times a week, or however often things happen to me, when I have an experience that I go through, I write it down. I write a sentence, whatever it was, and then I put the context behind it. So that way what I can do is I can go back and write a story about that down the line. And that helps me continuously create these relatable, these vulnerable stories that I can use to tell people and create a teachable lesson that helps people connect with me, show that I'm not perfect, show that I still struggle and go through hard times and tough things and have to figure them out, and help them recognize and realize that what I'm going through is probably pretty similar to where they're at and how that can help them propel to the next level. So biggest thing here is stop trying to be more than you are. Stop trying to be something that's perfect. Stop trying to be this thing that's unobtainable. Stop trying to pretend like you're ultra rich. Stop trying to pretend like you're ultra successful. Stop trying to pretend like you drive fast, fancy cars. Stop trying to pretend like you have those six-pack abs and you've never struggled a day in your life. Start actually helping people recognize that you struggle too, that you've been through the problems that they've been through, that you figured out how to get past there, and that struggle didn't end because you still have struggles to this day that actually show that you're human. Be human. Be real. That's how you become social. That's how you build the know, like, and trust factor amongst your fans. That's how you get people to listen and pay attention to you and not write you off as some sleazebag who's just trying to sell you stuff. So that's it. That's all I've got to say. I hope you all have a great day. If this was helpful, just go to iTunes or wherever you're watching this and leave me a 5-star review and let me know why. If you like this episode and you want to actually connect with me, go to Instagram.com/Chandler_SAF and let me know what you liked about the episode. Let me know if you wanted me to talk about anything specific in the future. And that's it. I'll talk to you all later.